click it, just work it a little bit. Just put some shakakan in there, just click it like that. Put some Angelique Kidjo in there. Just pretend like you're like some Angelique Kidjo. Or if you like Beyonce, put Beyonce in there. Just put a little bit. And then as you are slowing down, think of Luther Vandross, some Luther Vandross, think of a little bit like, the next I can to you, or some Gladys Knight, something like that, just work it, or Miss Tina Turner. What's left? Rolling, come on, let's do it. Rolling, come on. Rolling, come on. Rolling. There you go. Rolling, come on. Rolling. There you go. Ooh, rock. I can see you. I tell you. Oh, I can see you. I said, work it. All right.
You better already.
That's good. I just needed to get us, I was getting in a little bit of a funk, so I needed to be like, woo.
Yes.
And so I want to start with just a quick question to ask, what's a song, a quote, a speaker, perhaps a book, maybe a movie, something. These are just ideas that has been a lifeline for you, especially in this season. So, and I will start by saying, for me, especially the past few weeks, I was just on and off, I was okay. I was just normal, but I was still, on and off. And so what I did was I started listening to Miss Tina Turner. I will just get my headset on and I'm running around and, what's love got to do? And I'm just trying to learn her leg moves. You know how she has this funny leg and she stands there and she's like, if love something, we're gonna do it like that. And, I like a rap, do it. I'm just learning all these things. And, I'm listening to like Celine Dion's like, I'm a light. I'm like, okay, girl, what's wrong with you? But I just needed to get some of those things off, right? But, and then on a serious note, one of the lines from Hidden Figures that I love is like a scene with Taraji P. Henson and Kevin Costner, where they're asking her, why does it take you so long to go to the bathroom? Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, God.
Well, God knows that as a Black woman, they don't pay me well. I ain't got no pills. I have to walk to Timbuktu to go to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually Kevin says, okay, he goes out, takes the hammer, breaks everything. He said, from now on, no Black restrooms, no colored restrooms, just plain old restrooms. And for me, that reminded me of Good Trouble. And so as we think about the season we are in, especially with the racial outcry and all the stuff going on, those are things that give me, it sort of centers me. So that's some of what I've been doing. I just go crazy in the house and then, yeah.
So I know for me, so for me right now, one thing I am doing, and some of you know this about me, which is an old thing my father taught us years ago when I was growing up in Ghana, was looking up at the stars and the sky. It's been so amazing this year, and that's just been keeping me grounded, funnily, that we're part of this bigger universe. And I think that the idea that's come to mind for me this year, especially over the last 2 years, has been this saying that everything's always working out for you. You may not understand it yet. You may not be able to see it yet, but I have this belief that everything's working out for us somehow, right? We may just not know it yet. So yeah, there's a larger plan out there. And there are larger forces out there that we may just not.
We really believe that.
Yeah. Wow.
Really.
Yeah.
Any others?
Any others?
Maybe somebody is cooking. I've been doing a lot of things, right? Like including that baking bread and making my family constipated because they're eating.
Cooking, yeah, cooking. Cooking has been the thing. Cleaning as well. I've just been cleaning up.
Would you believe
Any others? Betel, what's a lifeline for you?
Yes, please. I think it's been going to the beach, like going out, being by the water. And then sometimes, even when I'm feeling very sad or called to action, I think about revolutionaries that I've been able to meet and had the honor to talk to, and what they say about how being a revolutionary is loving other people, and that it's like we're being guided by love and care and community. So
Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Doc, tell us, Doc.
Honestly, I've just been thinking a lot about grace, giving myself grace and giving other people grace. You know, we all walked into 2020 with new vision, new decade, new year. It didn't look in the way we thought it would look, you know, and a lot of the expectations that we had for ourselves and our life, and even expectations we had from God for this year and decade have not come the way that they have. So giving myself a lot of grace and giving other people's grace in a time where it's very unpredictable.
No, thank you very much. That's so powerful. Thank you. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of music, like when I'm showering, like a lot of mostly Christian gospel music. And I've been listening to, actually I've been really enjoying listening to like African gospel, mostly Nigerian, of course, but also South African. And there's a song by, I don't know how to pronounce her name, I think it's like Metema, Make a Way, that has just been like really just, part of what she says is that I trust that she will make a way.
Can you sing a line? Can you sing a line from the song?
So like the chorus goes, I trust you will make a way. I trust you will make a way. And then they just repeat that part. I know you will make a way. And just, I think for me, it's just like that assurance of, you know, we're all praying, like, you know, like it was already said, a lot of times we didn't think 2020 is not going to go according to plan. But it's just that assurance of saying that I trust you will make a way. I know you will make a way. And just to, you know, just stand firm in that promise. It's just kind of been getting me through each day, even as more uncertain things happen, literally second by second. Just continuing to trust that God is making a way.
Thank you.
Anybody else before I hand over back to Nana? I see that there are a few people who have joined. Malise, I think she's joining from Rwanda, and Amma Duncan from Ghana. Welcome, Malise, and welcome, Amma.
Thank you. Hi, thank you. Okay, on my side, I can say that I'm trying a lot of things. First of all, I love cooking, so this time I'm cooking a lot. I try to explore new way of cooking. Sometimes I just go to the kitchen without knowing what to cook, and I just miss everything just to see the results. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But it's a way of learning. And also I listen a lot to gospel this time, specifically Don Moen. Yes, I love listening to him.
Thank you, merci beaucoup, Malise. Any others before I hand over? Anybody who wants to? Hey, Mayatu. Anybody else wants to share? Auntie Abby.
I'm struck by, of course, how we have all gravitated, of course, to doing the same thing. And that is making sure we hold on to worship and praise.
Right.
And it's interesting because I don't think I cannot think of a year in which one could say, oh God, nothing has gone as planned. And absolutely everybody know what you're talking about. You know, unequivocally across the board, we have had a very strange human experience this year. The experience of, and if we ever doubted that we lived in an interconnected world, anybody who still doesn't know after this year is actually not in this world. But like a lot of you, I have therefore turned to a lot of reflection, I guess, joyful reflection.
Oh.
It's not easy, but it's been joyous. And I have been reading a lot of books, some of them quite surprising, on people who have gone through difficult faith walks. Like, there's a man called Rob Schenck, who, for people of my generation, is completely anathema because he was one of the big pastors in the Republican White House who was like leading the charge against abortion, and he was just obnoxious. He has written a book, which I picked up because he's broken away from the evangelical right and voting for Trump. But when I read it, I was so glad I wrote. I very seldom read books by white men. I mean, I just don't anymore. And I was so glad I've actually read 2 books, and then I'll stop, by white men from different, they both classify themselves as evangelical pastors, but from completely different sides of that spectrum. But one was raised Italian Catholic who found his way to evangelicalism, and the other, his father was Jewish, who knew that everything evil in the world had been done by white Christians because his family died in the Holocaust. And then 2 of his sons become evangelical pastors. But both of them, the honesty with which they dealt with their faith journeys, they dealt with, thinking you're righteous and coming to different kinds of understanding. The Italian Catholic whose brother is gay, and so on. It has been wonderful for me to learn to appreciate the world from such radically different perspectives. They were different from each other and different from me. Mm-hmm. And it has been instructive and humbling to deal with giving them the space to talk about how this moment finds them. Grace needs to be given to all of us in our faith walk, and that has been an important journey for me, because I'm talking about people for whom it never occurred to me that I should give them any, in a very real sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Auntie Abby. By the grace of others.
Yeah.
That's been my head all year. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, we are basically talking about something that has been a lifeline for those who are coming on. Something that has been a lifeline for you in this season. Maybe a practice, something you're doing. And most people have shared about, Auntie Abby, I love what you said about joyful reflection. It's not easy, but it is joyful. Holding on to our faith. The power of music. Music is the voice of God. Music has the power to transform atmosphere. Music is something that, I am a musician, I'm a singer, so that it's even something it comes to me naturally. That's what I do. Sometimes I go live and I'm singing and I'm screaming in the house, and my kids are looking at Mom, and all of that.
It's not what you do, my dear, it's who you are.
That's right. That's right. And then, somebody said going to the beach, and I think that is a symbol of nature, just being in nature, noticing yourself, noticing others, and noticing nature, noticing your environment. Things that we don't see, we are beginning to see again. Some are cooking. If they get to the kitchen, they don't know what they are cooking, but they put everything together. So those are some of the things. And then I think Doc, what Ikia said, I call her Doc, so I'm just like, what Ikia said is just learning to extend grace to yourself and grace to others. And even the fact about a lot of us had expectations, especially if you're a person of faith. You go to church and you're like, in 2020, you know, the Lord is going to open a door. 2020 is my year of coming out, you know, and we all have like stuff. And then, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out.
Not going anywhere.
So anyways,
I will say we are coming out in the way we didn't expect to. That's all.
That's right.
It just looks different.
Right.
We're still here.
So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Thank
Amma,
you.
you want to say something?
Hi,
Moyatu?
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation. So, one of the few things I've been doing in this season, I've been reading a lot. I feel like I've been catching up on all the reading I wanted to do and I couldn't do. So I've been reading a lot of business books. But most importantly, I'm also having the opportunity to create product, online product, digital product and all that. I'm also using it to engage my audience a lot. And I feel really grateful for the kind of break that I have. Initially, I was a bit, what's the right word? I was blank. I didn't know what was happening, but then a few weeks into it, I just decided to use the time fruitfully for other things, and it's been really going well for me. I'm grateful.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Moyatu?
Yeah, hi everyone. I was driving, so my video was off, but happy to be here. I just wanted to add to what everybody has contributed, which has been such a blessing to hear. One of the things I've been doing as far as just wellness is, recently, what is called, I guess I just found out recently, is called digital minimalism, which is basically being very intentional about just onlineness and accessibility online and knowing when to switch off. So one of the things I've done, for instance, simple practice is like deleting. I'm somebody who's heavily on social media, whether it's for work reasons and sometimes personal, but deleting social media apps from my phone. Being very intentional about when I go on social media, being very intentional about what I follow, what I listen to, what I read, right? So going back to just uplifting things that I've been plugging into, definitely worship music. Two of my favorite worship leaders that I've been listening to. One, I recently discovered, his name is Theophilus Sunday, and then Grace Williams, and just being able to kind of pause and sometimes just have like moments where I'm just listening to just worship music, spiritual music has been really helpful at this time. So definitely just being more intentional about, where you I invest my energy, but also just what type of conversations I get involved in. If I notice it's something that is potentially going to drain me, knowing how to gracefully kind of exit out of those types of conversations or redirect conversations to things that feed my spirit. So that's really been me in these last couple of months in this season, especially. It's just intentionality and being present, in my relationship.
Thank you, Moyatu.
I listened to another book which you might find helpful, which Moyatu reminded me of. And it's a book called The Common Rule, again, by another faith-based person who talks about the common rules of living.
Here.
Oh, I mentioned it. Isn't it good?
Yes.
All right.
So we'll make sure everybody gets you. Welcome to Miriam and Cynthia coming in.
It makes a big difference, doesn't it? Some of the little,
Thank you. Oh, someone is on.
Quickly, could Bemi and Moyatu and Auntie Abby in the chat, could you write down the names of the people that you said you were listening to and the book so that at least we can see it and jot it down ourselves?
And then we'll make sure we add it to the email that goes out afterwards as well. So I'm going to move us to our next topic, sort of piece of discussion that's really around kind of digging into the well, I call it. So Mame, maybe you can talk through the quote you have here, and we're gonna call it the Baton Talk, in sort of remembrance of Tabitha's TED Talk, which I hope you all listened to, because I you should listen to it if you haven't. Please do.
So the Baton Talk is actually something that Tabitha coined. And Tabitha and I have known each other we are in Uganda. She and I are, is it Salongo or Nalongo? I don't even remember, Tabitha.
Nalongo.
Nalongo means mother of twins. So Tabitha has twin daughters as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so yeah. So we've known each other for a while, and we had the opportunity to do like a session with MasterCard scholars at their Baobab Summit. But in listening to the TED Talk that she did, I mean, it's so powerful. And I've just been reading it and listening and reading. And as I was thinking about the idea of trauma transferred and trauma transformed, these were the things. This was a quote that I came up with along with one of my mentees. And we basically said that we are all recovering from the traumas of our collective histories. And in that space, we are attempting to unlearn the internalized mistruths that we've been told about each other and ourselves. And this transformation of healing takes time. It takes patience. Doc, your word, it takes grace with ourselves and with each other. And so in this baton talk that, Tabitha talks about, these are the things that really stood out for me. And so I just wanted to put that there, that this journey and this process takes time, it takes patience, and it takes giving ourselves grace first, and then we can extend it to others. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
All right, so Tabitha.
Thank you.
What's the baton? And let's talk about that.
Right. Everybody ready to get your batons out?
Yes.
We're going to analyze and reflect and have a chance to let go of the things that no longer serve us to step into the things that can serve us. And I think if 2020 has done something for me, it's been that. I've been considering it a cleansing year to take out, right? Like some of the things we thought, for example, our closets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We always thought we needed all these new outfits, and now I just wear pajamas and the shoes. Oh my gosh,
Right.
but I don't even remember how to wear high heels now and walking them. So.
It's actually an embarrassment
back to essentials.
to see them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main idea behind this baton, right? We carry a lot of things that and maybe sometime they served us and they helped us survive, but now we're thriving and we no longer need those things. But it also kind of informs a lot of ways in which we walk through life and show up for each other and for ourselves. So because we're talking about self-care, that's where I'm going to focus most of this topic around. And to Aqua's grace for self, that's been my mantra as well. Grace for self, grace for others, and gratitude for what is. So acceptance has been a big part in helping me through 2020 and in helping me navigate the unknown, right? So everybody has a pen and a piece of paper, just to kind of note things down for yourself, because and then also, can somebody time me? I get excited. I'll get off track. I might not be able to do that for myself. That would be really helpful. Thank you. All right. So first, I want us to. Oh, can I share?
Yeah. Let me make sure you can.
Disabled.
Sure. Let me go back and.
She has all the powers. I wanted us to first step back and not take anything for granted, because that's how we fall into all these traps, right? We think we know what the why behind how we show up and why we do what we do, but a lot of the times, as we know can you try to share? Yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you. So our brains are constantly, all right, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it has all this information that it's continuously trying to get through. And in order for us to do what we need to do to get through the day, it cuts a lot of corners, right? It makes everything automatic. And we think we're thinking for ourselves, but the biggest part of how we do what we do is on the unconscious. So I'm not taking anything for granted. And if this feels too elementary, bear with me, but I think it's key to understanding. So I want us to just first reflect on this identity wheel, right? We are all very complex beings. We are made up of all identities, and based on where you are, these mean different things as well, right? So for some of us in the US, when you say race, that's a whole different meaning than when you're back home. So I want you to just take time for just a couple seconds and reflect on gender. Where, what does that mean to you? Ethnicity, what's your ethnicity and where you are? Just kind of think through that. What language you speak and what it means depending on where you live, right? When you're back home and you're with your people, your language is takes on a different meaning than when you're in the US and you have an accent. And what does that mean? All that good stuff. Your legal status, your national origin, physical appearance or body image, that also has a different meaning. So we're not going to exhaust this, but I just wanted to kind of trigger a few thoughts around all the different identities that you have. So I'll give you a minute. Now I want you to just name the top 3 from this cycle. What are the top 3 when you think of yourself that kind of have that more salient meaning for you? Kind of where you take a lot of your, if I say, what are your identities? What are your top 3 that you think through? I'm a Black woman, middle-aged Black woman, or I am, I guess that was one for me because now I'm looking at the other. I'm like, right. Your health and your ability, right? When you don't have a disability, sometimes we don't even think about our able bodies. All those. All right. So you have your top 3 there. So now I want us we're talking about self-care. This is the part where we're going to all participate, and I can get my stop sharing piece so we can all see each other. All right, so now who can tell me when you hear the word self-care, now it's been used a lot in 2020, what do you think about when somebody says self-care?
When I hear self-care, I think about making sure that I am okay first, like putting myself on my own schedule, making time for me to be okay first before I can focus on all the other different things that I am responsible for or I'm passionate about.
Right, so putting yourself first and taking care of yourself. Where did you get that definition from? Oh, like, if you had to think about, come up with that.
Okay, sorry, please, can you come with a question again?
Yeah, I'll say, where did you first hear that, or how did you come up with that definition for yourself? Who informed you?
Okay, so perhaps the first time was when I attended an event for women. It was a sort of retreat, and we were talking about the different things that we do, trying to take care of everyone else and how sometimes we get burnt out and everything. So I remember the speaker, Yawa, she said, we put ourselves on our schedule. This was maybe 5 or so years ago. And since then, I mean, the concept has developed a bit with me, but it started around about that time. And an example like how, when you're on the airplane, they tell you that in case of emergency, put your own mask on first before you put others. And so things like that was what really made me pay attention to the whole concept of taking care of me first. To be honest, it's not like I mastered it right away. I am still mastering it. Sometimes it's really difficult. I mean, today, for instance, I've had to do a lot of self-care of myself in order not to freak out, but just relax and then trust that everything will be fine,
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Okay, so it came from a women's retreat, and it was a woman speaker. Around take care of yourself. All right, anybody else? Where did you first
I think I had a similar experience with Amma to Amma. This was probably, I would say 15 years ago. going to a women's retreat as well, right? And having that, and the analogy that was shared was you have to fill your basket first before you can give from it, right? And that was this whole sort of perspective that I hadn't heard before, right? I don't think many of us grew up with, well, maybe we saw it, but sometimes not, right? I'm not sure many of us grew up with that as a topic, especially back then. But this is probably about 15 years ago where I started to think of that, sort of fill my basket first and then going back to what fills my basket, and it changes over time. But yeah. So thanks for sharing that. You just jogged my memory, Emma.
Right, so some of the things we don't think about, who defined this for us? Anybody else? How did you?
Well, for me, it happened when I was working in a women's organization, and I had my 3 children. So some of us are greedy. So when I got pregnant, I had twins, right? So we just went for 2 at a time. We just went for the double package, right? But so in a matter of, I had my twins and then my son. And I was showing up at work, and I noticed that I was showing up in silos. So when I was at work, I was this working woman. When I came home, I am mom. When I was relating to my family, I am this sister, and then I'm a wife, and I saw that they were all in compartments. And so I was going through a process where I was like, I needed to integrate who I am so that I can show up in the fullness of who God has created me to be. And that started my journey of being of self-care. And basically it's still a process. I'm still on that journey. It's a process. I'm giving myself grace. But I think the bottom line is, these days, what I do is I don't really give 5, whatever, you can put the reds, right? It's like, just happy yourself. That is my mantra. Just happy yourself. Free your mind, the rest will follow. So just taking pressure off of myself. I don't want to have approval addiction where I want people to like me. I want people to, I don't want to show up on Facebook and show my nice side and be like, okay, cheese with my nice side, right? I just want to be just as I am. And if people can see me just as I am and accept me just as I am, it allows me to thrive, and it gives others permission to thrive. And I think Auntie BC, actually captured it very well where she said, it's not about, it was like, the first AfriWomen we had, actually, and Auntie BC and Auntie Abby were there, and Auntie BC said, it's not about being selfish, it's not about being selfless, which a lot of us Black women are, right? But it's about being self-full. So that's the mantra I live with.
I like that.
Auntie Abby, unmuted.
To say quickly to both of you who just spoke, one of the things I did after Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, and I just need to say, you all know, don't you, that her first teaching job was at Rutgers. Rutgers Law School is where she started all her work. But she says in her autobiography, she says a wonderful thing, because she was talking about how she had her 2 young children when she was at law school, as was her husband. And then she started her work, and she was worrying about, should I accept this? I'm about to have a child and blah, blah, blah. And she said it was her father-in-law who gave her the best advice. Her father-in-law looked at her and said, do you actually want to be a lawyer? Because if you do, you will find a way. And she said what she and her student poor husband did was they found a way to have babysitters, in the morning when they were both at school. And she would come back from school at 4. But she said she realized in the end, coming back to give her daughter mummy time is what saved her life. She said she would go be the best law student she could, but she knew between 4 and 6, she was going home and she was going to give her daughter mommy time and do whatever. And then after she and her husband had dinner and put the child to bed, they knew they were both in the evenings going to work. And she said she realized the huge difference it made to her spiritual life and everything, that she actually had something and somebody else to think about and somebody to give to, other than the craziness of being a, you know, and that became her, caring for her child became her form of self-care.
Wow.
Yes.
Thanks for
Powerful.
sharing.
Yeah.
Right? So it can be included in your daily life or the things that you should be doing. So now that most of you have shared, this concept is something that came to you later in life, right? Some of you was 4 years ago, some of you is when you already had your children and you're like, oh, I should pay attention to how I care for myself. So let's think about the why. What are some other messages we've received looking at your identities, the top 3 that you chose? And anybody can share at any time. What some messages you receive about self-care? And so for me, the first one, as a woman of African descent, specifically Rwandan, right? You put others first. Yeah. You don't, thinking about yourself or doing something for yourself is selfish. That was a message I consistently got from my mother. You always give and look after your siblings, look after your community, do this for the church, show up and show out. That's in so many words. That's what a woman, a real good Rwandan woman does. And so growing up and having children of my own, anytime I take time for myself or say no to an event or to cook for a potluck, or to, if I say no to something because it's good for me, that voice comes in, you're being selfish, you're not being a good Rwandan woman. So that's, gender shows up in how I think of self-care. For some of you, what else, what messages have you received around taking care of yourself based on the 3, or any one of the identities you chose?
Okay, so let me speak because I have to run quickly and it breaks my heart. So for me, like what you said, you were told that as a woman, you should do X, Y, Z. I wasn't told, but I saw my mom, especially for a long period, she was a single mom. I saw the sacrifices she made for my brother and I. I saw the opportunities she had to progress in life, but because of us, she couldn't. I saw so many things that she did and she stopped herself from enjoying because of us. And so that was the message I had, that I have to do same. You know, I have to do same for others because others have sacrificed for me to be where I am today. And for her as well, her mother also sacrificed a lot from her. However, what I've noticed is that now that she's in her 70s, okay, actually even before, somewhere around the 60s into 70s, she actually she became a new person in terms of enjoying herself. Like every year she would take trips abroad. It didn't matter whether, you know, I had a baby or not. She's living her life now. And I feel that there's so much to learn from that. Yes, she did make sacrifices. I don't know whether she regrets or not. But I look at her now, she's unapologetic about how she's enjoying. She looks, sometimes she even looks like my sister, and she's about 70. And so I think that there's so much to learn from that. I think she somewhere along the line, she realized that perhaps her kids are not everything. She also has her own life to live. And my mom like really lives. You should see her on social media. She's like a 13-year-old, but she's over 70. I mean, but for COVID, she would be in Canada or US or something, just because, you know. So I think that I have learned from that. She gave me 2 messages. First, that you have to sacrifice, and then secondly, you have to enjoy your life. And for me, I think that's very fine. Yes, I do both. I sacrifice for my kids, but I am not apologetic anymore about enjoying my life. And on that note, I have to say
thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Bye, Emma.
Bye, Emma.
Thank you. And thank Mom for that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a great, interesting point in that And I don't remember necessarily getting a message per se, but it's what you saw around you, right? Especially when there are children in the house, right? And I was sharing with some of you, like oftentimes we get vitamins in the house. I make little packages for my nieces. Do I take mine? No, because I'm like, well, they need to get that. They need to make sure they don't get sick, right? But then it's this is helping me remember that I need to go back and have more consistent practices, right? Yeah.
Right, and messages are mainly gotten through what we watch more than what we hear, right?
Yes.
Other people make.
Yes.
Yeah, Valerie, sorry. Go ahead.
I think something that's different, at least about my generation, is like, so for instance, with my mom, she often thinks I'm selfish. I'm also an only child, so maybe it's true. I don't know. But I think I've been fortunate to grow up in a space where, you know, looking at like the previous generation and the sacrifices they've made and things like that, in a way, I've been able to see the importance also of prioritizing myself and the people that I care about, etc. So I think what's different, and I think it's almost like a generational gap that happens often of now, like, you know, your mother is like, why are you being selfish? Or like, especially when you do set boundaries. And I think especially coming from, you know, African traditions and like culture and the yes, and being, you know, you're being told somewhere, it's okay to say no. And then you go home and you're told, I want you to do this. And you're like, no. And it's like, it's this cultural disconnect. So it becomes like, are you being rude? So that navigation of like balancing how to, you know, understand yourself, to take care of yourself, to set your priorities, but also within a context that hasn't necessarily been molded in that way, is like a tag that's always there.
Oh yeah, boundaries.
I just wanted to add something quickly. I think one that will resonate for most of us on here, and the one I picked was spirituality. And I think of self-care from the lens of being a Christian and how we are battered in church, that if you, it's even a taboo. You know, there's some things that are taboos, you don't talk about it. So you can't even talk about, I'm feeling a bit depressed. They might say you're not praying enough, you are not spiritual enough, the Holy Ghost has left you. You need to like, come and let me lay hands and lay legs, like fire! From heaven, come down! Holy Ghost fire! You know, you're not fire. In Ghana, we say you're not Ojash. Oja means fire, so you're not Ojash enough. But I think that especially in church, and in the African church for that matter, we have separated the idea of wellness and mental health and self-care. We've made it so strange, and we have put all kinds of stigma around it. And for me, it's a big one that I am beginning to, especially in my spaces of influence as a believer, as a minister, I'm beginning to speak out on that, to break that stereotype and dismantle it.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt and shame attached to wanting to do self-care or thinking about mental health. Yeah, Moite and then Auntie Abby.
Yes. I was going to just buttress on Valerie's point on how like age has shown up positively for mental health, especially in our Generation Z and millennials, where we are born at such a time where we are, you know, we're questioning things, and there's that hyper visibility of you know, positive affirmation and how self-care is important, and how importantly we should prioritize that. But also, interestingly enough, in my own personal space, my mom uses my age to encourage me to take care of myself and to prioritize myself. She's like, you're so young, why should you be stressed? You're so young, why is it that you should hold off on your desires or of your life because XYZ? You're so young. So like, she's been using that to buttress the point of self-care, but also like it made me realize how sad that kind of is, you know, because it's like, why should it be because you're young you should take care of yourself? Why can't it be a practice that we carry on as we move on along our lives? It seems as if
that sentiment is like, she's like, you know, there's going to be a point in life where life is truly hectic and you will have to stop taking care of yourself, which I think is, you know, kind of sad to think of self-care as something that you do in your teens and early 20s, because there's going to be such a time where it stops. So I think we should also look at ways in which, you know, ageism is a thing, and we should, especially for women, and we should break that cycle of saying when a woman reaches 30, then, you know, they should stop taking care of themselves or whatever. And I don't know, with the general topic of self-care in itself, I'm thinking about the ways in which systematic systems prevent us from taking care of ourselves, and how self-care has now become commercialized, you know, because of that, you know. And so, you know, a company will be like, oh, we prioritize self-care, like, but you can only have 2 hours on Saturdays off, whereas during the week you're working 16 hours a week at Wall Street. So in which ways are self-care, like, in which ways have self-care become commercialized and a part of the capitalist system and have manifested itself as such, and in what ways can we reclaim it by, like, viewing it as truly that, as what it's supposed to be?
I wanted to make a contribution to jump off of your question, Moise, because that's a really powerful question. And I've been thinking a lot about that as it relates to just what's happening now. And last week I attended a workshop because I'm just taking some classes just to renew my license, my clinical license. And one of the presenters talked about the trifecta effect that's happening right now. So you have COVID, you have kind of anti-Black sentiments and everything that's going on with that. And then you have like this economic crisis and also just the political crisis and just the compounded effects of that. I'm also thinking of that also on the continent and everything that's happening in Nigeria, in the Congo, in Cameroon today, and some of the things that we're hearing, and how that ultimately impacts the well-being of Black people. So something that's really interesting to me is that when the presenter was presenting, he directly made correlations to how basically the mental well-being of people of color has definitely depleted during this time. Like, there's data that's showing it, etc. We're seeing more people who are in need of mental health services. And just to even talk about this idea of hypervisibility, I think with Gen Z and millennials, there's this idea of like therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. But the caveat is, who can afford therapy, right? When we talk about classism, even if you can't afford, you know, do you have insurance to pay for therapy? You know, there's certain kind of traditional ways of therapy that sometimes people want to access. Those are harder to access. Sometimes therapy, even just seeing a therapist once, is anywhere between $50 to $200. How many sessions can you actually get with a therapist, right? So I just want to bring some of that also into the space, just as somebody with a social work clinical background to think of. And just backtracking to this idea of self-care, I definitely echo everything all the sisters have shared. I think growing up in a Sierra Leonean home with a mother who balanced both being, you know, a mother, a wife, going, you know, teaching, having her own career and things like that. And also seeing a lot of the women around me and how they broke their backs for their children, for their family, for their husbands. And just some of the negative implications of that, right? Like the positive implications were, you know, community is built, etc. But at the cost of, you know, like I had aunts who unfortunately have passed on because of so much stress on their bodies. And what does that look like and what does that mean? And I think like the formality of self-care, Tabitha, to your question, was when I went to social work school, and they would literally have self-care days. So we had field that we would go to, and we did clinical work during, you know, our master's program. We had to take, you know, we had to do an internship. And internships sometimes can be quite hardcore. And so what they would do literally is give us self-care days to just take off of school. And that was one of the first times I started implementing that system, even in my personal life. So I would literally, you know, sometimes I just put the out of office on, like, I mean, knows this, like, and even if I'm doing absolutely nothing, it's like, it's self-care time. And there are certain specific times in the year that I just take off. Even if I'm like, even during the COVID season, there are 2 times in the year that I know it's just time for me to switch off and do absolutely nothing. And my body literally pays me for it. And I've seen how my practice is also helping my mother, right? Like lately I've been buying these Lush bath bombs and she's been seeing me taking these baths. And now she's like, oh, when are you getting more of those bath bombs? Because she wants so just even just the intergenerational conversations around mental well-being and self-care is so important, you know, and trauma. And I'm somebody who has been through war, and a lot of my colleagues who have been through war, we've started to talk more about the trauma, the effects of it that we probably never even thought about, right? Except for those of us who went to therapy. But yeah, those are just some of the things I wanted to bring in the space also, to think of this idea of class, to think of these idea of systems, think of these ideas of just intergenerational womanhood and African womanhood, and how self-care plays into all of this. Yeah, and I wanted to just end with this quote by Audre Lorde, which is another thing that informed my self-care at some point in my journey, where she basically is talking about self-care. It's quite radical, but I think it's important to bring in the space. And it says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. And I think as Black women, we don't realize how much of the systems play on us, right? Like, I just think, especially now, there is so much happening. And if we're not intentional about some of these spaces that we're part of, for instance, or just having a practice of how we take care of each other, it can literally weigh down on us. And just to echo everything with Mama, even just about faith and the importance of spirituality and what that means for you, especially during these times. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
girl. Yes, I saw everybody's head is about
high five for everybody, right?
Agreeing, and everybody's stepping, because I think we all agree. And unfortunately, we have run out of time. I just got my my reminder, and so as you can see, we could go just with this part forever. Right. So and the reason I brought up the identities first is to bring all those pieces to the forefront. Right. Some of our identities are a source of privilege, like class. You can afford to get the help, like what you were just saying. And some of our identities are the source of most of the stress, or the reason we need the self-care.
Yes.
So you just summed that up beautifully, that I will just hand it back.
Yeah. And definitely, as you have thoughts as well, please share them in the chat. I see some really interesting comments coming through the chat. And just to kind of so let's just move to the next section, because I think that it's time for us to kind of take a step back as well with all that we've heard, and kind of start to think about what do we do for ourselves now, right? This year, I don't think that the events of this year, the effects of it are still going to be felt for another 3, 4, 5 years, forever probably. Right? The world is not going to go back to the way it was. So how do we now find a way to have steady systems that are continuous, that we can continue to practice, and what's holding us back? So I'm going to go into just 2 questions, and then we'll do breakouts and come back together. And I know we're running out of time, so we'll make it a little shorter, but if you can think about, as you come back, even if it's 1 word or whatever, but what things are essential for you to do for your self-care in this season and for the long term, right? And what's holding you back right now from doing this essential thing? So we're going to break out, come back, and just kind of talk about what you talked about in your group. So I'm going to make it a little small groups so that we can actually have time to share as a group. So let me do this real quick. Okay. Give me 1 second here, sorry. Count.
And then whilst you're doing that, I see we have a few people who joined.
Yes.
So I see Topaz, welcome.
Welcome.
Sheyi, Miss Belayo, welcome. Thank you for joining. I don't know who, Live Fit, I believe.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for joining. Lily, thank you for joining, and thank you for sharing so truthfully on the chat. Thank you so much. And Cynthia, who is AWDF USA board member at Treasurer. Cynthia, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope I didn't miss anybody.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm going to open the rooms now, and we'll give maybe 7 minutes, a quick one, and then we'll come back up, and Miriam is here as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Hello. Hi, Marlies. Hi, Lily. Can you hear me? Hi, Miriam. Hello. Nope. Marlies, can you hear me? Let's see what's going on. Break out the room. Marlies Belayo not joined. I'm going to start peeking into rooms. I just joined this.
Never that clear cut and smooth, but I did feel as if this was a woman who had made her priorities and had met them in some regard. And that's how come she can enjoy herself now. That's what, and the other thing that I wanted, so there was an intentionality. I just wanted to say that quickly, and decision-making in terms of the quite true things Moyatu said about where we are located and can we afford therapy and so on. I also wanted to say that we are in the position, if we answer the question, who are we, what matters to us, to try to do things that can alleviate that. Like, for example, the last thing I need to be doing right now with my paper unfinished and all kinds of stuff undone is sitting in an AfriWomen's Hangout. You know, really. I haven't finished my paper. I've got reports done. I just feel that I need to go to all things up. Yep. It's like I thought it's 2 o'clock and I'm really gonna spend time. Yes, because this is good for my soul. And so, yeah, we'd like to be in what's essential is community, and we would prefer to be holding each other's hands. But we can't. But we found a way. In fact, we found something to do things which we didn't have before. Because we didn't check in with each other on a monthly basis in a formal setting before Zoom.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm peeking into the rooms. I'll see you in a few.
Okay. Yes. And
Nana.
Okay. Yep. I was just peeking into some of the rooms. Now I'm not sure even how to. Oh, really?
Mariam
wait. Let me go back.
I'm a bet they are not able to connect. You know, I think Lily was saying that voice and then Mariam.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just gonna peek in. Oh, should I make you a host to peek in?
Sure. Yeah, just so I can peek in. Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that. Let me.
Just co-host, I think.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Let me just go back into.
Because I was like, okay, it's going to be a nice fight. Let me take a nap.
Let me make you a co-host so you can go in. I hope you can.
Hopefully.
If you go into breakout rooms, it should be able to give you.
Let me see.
Oh, I can move you into one. Let me move you.
You have been assigned. Yeah. Just move me.
Why not just move you?
Yeah, because if you make your co-host, I can't.
Yeah, you still can't do it. Okay, so I'm trying to think. Everybody is. Which one do you want? With Mary, one blue, Valerie. I'm trying to see where we don't have anybody.
Yeah.
We actually do. Well,
I was in break room.
Maybe I'll give you with Rebecca. I'll put you in break room 3 with Rebecca and Ikwa.
Okay. All right.
Okay. They should have.
All right. I'm gonna
come. I'm just moving around.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Situation. I've been able to. We have a bit of network issues here. So
yeah, I'm seeing that.
Yeah, we're trying to do the best with what we have.
Yeah.
So I was talking about exercise. I'm trying to pick that up, and as I'm picking it up, I think it's also just translating into like a much more wholesome experience for me. And then I think another one would be community, like really being intentional. I think especially right now that a lot of my relationships are long distance, and being intentional in terms of making time, and also just leaning into them for support and care. And I'd say the last one would be creativity. I think that's really helped in terms of whether it's consuming or creating my own. That's really been helpful.
Exercise is gone. So Olivia.
No, it cannot be gone.
Olivia, I beg. We need you. No, I'm serious. It's I mean, I'm literally sitting here looking at a recumbent bike. I have some torn meniscus because actually of it's kind of bizarre, but I'm literally looking at a recumbent bike here and a bunch of all the weights and the balls here. Do I use it? No.
No problem. Now that you've told me about it, you're going to regret it. Because listen, we have to. And this is, I feel like that's part of my God-given purpose right now. We have so many stressors in our lives. And if we just give ourselves that little time, to take care of ourselves, the blessing and the rewards that we get out of it is everything. So my sister, now that you told me about this bike,
even a walk. I mean, so we have, and I told my sister, I live with my sister and her 2 girls, and I'm like, we need to do better, right? We need to. I get them outside to ride their scooter and most of the time I may be walking around, but it's not long. It's not real exercise for me. So.
But that's no. But you shouldn't say it like that. No, any little thing that you do is excellent.
Yeah.
Anything you can do.
I used to like going to the gym and do weights and stuff like that for years. So I'm feeling like maybe I'll just stick to walking. But yes, we may be pulling you in to give us some sessions, Olivia.
How about you, Mary?
We're gonna need that. The next AfriWomen would be a workout session.
Yes, let's go. Let's move.
I think so, because it's something that goes away quickly. Because but you don't need to be outside in a gym to exercise. You can do it at home.
So true.
Yeah.
Creativity is so important.
It is.
Yeah.
How about you, Mary?
So I'm gonna pop out. I'll see you guys in a few.
All right. See ya.
The breaking comes in that, look, I need to stand in for myself. I need to do things for myself. There's the saying that says that you can always open a door for people to pass through without even them appreciating what you have done for them. You get it?
Right.
So when it gets to a point in time, you need to take care of yourself. And it's very important. Most women fail to do that because they think or they feel the society is going to, look at them in a different way. But I don't think that society feeds you. I don't think the society that puts bread on your table.
The society helps, yes, but you got to fight yourself your way out. Because when I am sitting here and I am hungry, society will not bring me food. No. Even think about what I'm going through. Even my family members don't even know what I'm going through. But when I'm able to stand out tall, oh, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? You start giving out money to them, and now they count you part of the society. And it's so much, it's so much that I wish every woman can, it's going to be a wake-up call for every woman to be able to stand tall on that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Lily, for sharing that. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it off to Moitzi and Valerie. I know there were interesting discussions in the breakout, so I was flipping around. I didn't stay long enough for everyone, so I'm curious to hear how things went. So Moitzi and Valerie.
So hi everyone. I guess this point is just like for us to like share the different experiences that we had in the different groups. I think something that was interesting with us, we're having this whole conversation about exercise and how it's somewhat essential to, you know, keeping us healthy and alive during these times, and like the different difficulties that come with that. I know for us, time was one of it, and then responsibilities. So for instance, with Nana, when she was talking to us, it was more of, you know, having to take care of other people at the same time, and like being able to move, that being a difficulty. So are there any other common threads that were happening in the different breakout groups?
I think for my breakout group, we talked about exercise and activity and being outdoors.
And what? Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I was in a group with One and Bemi. And we talked about how reconnecting with family can both be a form of self-care, but also taking time away from family can also count as self-care, because you know, there are certain habits and things, certain toxic things that may manifest within families. And routine, we talked about how the importance of keeping a routine and the importance of how routine can be self-care, and how it can help you keep on check and help you proceed on with the day, if you know things might not necessarily be going well, but looking forward to doing a routine can help maintain certain levels of you know, stability. And also we talked about self-care being in the small things, like not necessarily self-care, like it doesn't mean going on a vacation to Mauritius or Seychelles. Sometimes it is like you know, taking out time from your day to clean, to cook, to read a book, or whatever it is that it might be for your personal goals, objectives, and your life. And so those are the things that we talked about.
I definitely hear you on the small things. I think for me, one thing is coffee in the morning. Just that good cup. It just makes a good day or breaks it. Any other groups want to share?
Any others?
And particularly in terms of thinking about what's holding us back, like, because that might be useful even in terms of like, you know, moving from today and being more cognizant about how we can change our patterns.
Money is holding me back. I need money. Money. Do you have money? I need money.
Ultimately, money is the whole thing that is holding everyone back here.
Yeah.
And in the midst of the COVID, I mean, so many things are being held. We can't even, do a lot of production. So the money is not coming in. Money is just going out like that. So everybody needs money.
Show me the money.
I think something that came up in our group, that the money point brought back to me was the idea that self-care is on a spectrum, and it's not necessarily about having to stop and doing something out of the ordinary, but is making the ordinary joyful. And thinking about our grandparents, we're thinking of self-care from a Western perspective. We brought up the idea around they had to go fetch water, right, in a far place with a heavy bucket, but they made sure they do it around the same time with their friends, so they can help each other, they can have that conversation, they can commune, right? So finding the joy in the ordinary and in the work, in the struggle. What can I do in this moment to bring that out? Because I have to do it, but it doesn't have to be that treacherous. That stuck with me.
Making the ordinary joyful. That's for sure. Anyone else?
Okay, sorry.
Doesn't look like it, but wow, my friend's texting me.
Sorry. Okay, I can contribute. I think just echoing this point about self-care not being a grand thing. For me, I think I found it in the small things. I used to think, because the ways in which people talked about self-care on social media, it was like, oh, just up as Mita was saying, going on a trip, or like being in Italy or some expensive beach, like with the expensive drinks. But for me, I think during this lockdown and like starting my PhD, it's the small things like buying myself flowers every Sunday. Yeah. I didn't even used to like flowers because I'm like, it's flowers, they die at some point. So why would someone waste coins on that? But I'm just realizing I have having flowers around and like, decorating my house, moving things around. And those are the small things that I actually find joy in, because with the PhD, you read every day and your question might change, and I don't like not having structure. So I've started cooking and arranging my food, and that's the only thing that I look forward to. And it's actually eating healthy, and I feel so much better. Like I don't have sleeping problems anymore. I'm off my sleeping medication. So it's just been like, self-care mean the small thing. It doesn't have to be grand thing that people take it out to be, and it doesn't have to spend 50 pounds or whatever. It can just be like 2 pounds on roses, and that's it. And that's just makes up your whole day. So normalizing self-care. And also I was just thinking about how do I go back home and have a conversation with my grandmother about self-care, like how did self-care look in her time, like having like normalizing that and like trying to find the language that they use at that time, and how do I normalize that and introduce that to my own family as well, because I'm sure they'll be like, what self-care? don't waste our time like that. So interesting conversations, and how do we connect, how do we have the intergenerational conversations, and find space and hold space for each other.
Think of like the fact that like there's a scripture in the Bible that says everything that has happened before. And so in our group we talked about actually grandmothers and those who came before us. And one thing that Tabitha raised that triggered a memory for me, she said, imagine maybe their self-care wasn't necessarily how we may see it now, but maybe it was just when they're going to get water, and just that community that they hold, to know that, Auntie Abby said maybe it was like they picked a certain time that they knew the women will go and get water, and within that time is probably where they do their gossiping, catch up about the day, and even that was self-care. And I told a story about my father's mom, and how when she moved to the capital city after the war, I noticed that she's somebody who's very industrious anyway, and she would make soaps, and anytime she would make her soaps or her oils, her face I just remember there was always so much joy around the house, and I always could tell when her mood changed, because there would always be like this sadness, but the soaps that she would make would always bring joy to her. And also when her friends came to hang out with her, so people her age, who would come and hang out, and then they would reminisce about just things. And so I noticed that was their way of self-caring, whether it was using her hands to make the things that she got joy from, or just spending time with other grandmothers, some of my grand aunts who would come and they would get dressed and go to these, what we call punado, like, naming ceremonies and things like that. That was self-care for them. So interesting to think about, just to your point, Onim.
And thank you for that. I think of, and you just sort of jogged the memory of something that happened this week. think of intergenerational. My sister's youngest loves to give herself the facials, and we're thinking, where did she pick this up from? But now it's like it's infiltrating into our lives now. Like, you never see my nails done ever. But this week I was like, she was doing her nails, and I was like, maybe I should do mine too. And just like taking the 10 minutes out to do it, it's just like decompression, right? So she's teaching me a few things of the younger generation. Whether she's getting it from TikTok, it doesn't matter. It's helping us all.
I think that's just something really interesting in terms of just tying them all in together. Sorry for the... Yeah, okay, that's good. Just tying all that together, I think what's really interesting, or what's resounding in the different conversations, is just this idea of the normalizing of care. I think academically, I think about it more as the quotidian, the everyday, the things we do every day in terms of care, in terms of pleasure, in terms of joy. And I think moving forward for all of us, it would really be interesting if we all came out with, one quotidian practice of care that we could incorporate into our day-to-day lives, whether it's the flowers like One, the coffee like me, and especially thinking about, us being able to contextualize, the scarce resources that we do have to practice this self-care, but like thinking about whether it's writing poetry. I know my friend Batel loves to write and things like that, but it's really just wonderful listening to the different remedies that we have, and I'm really channeling my energy to everyone that we are able to incorporate it, at least throughout the end of this difficult time that we're all in.
Can I add something?
Yes,
one thing that we talked about was more of the internal, right? And how doing self-care can also be understanding more of your why. And so in the mornings, I try and go, walk early and have a prayer walk, and just try and dig into what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Especially with COVID shaking up everything. But just really understanding who am I, the purpose, and kind of reiterating, what I know for myself. And I think taking those times to really establish the foundation of you is another form of self-care. And I believe that that's something that's extremely important, because sometimes, you just get so run down and everything's questioned and you're just like, wait, what's going on? So definitely taking time out to reestablish thoughts, and that can be done daily, or that can be done once or twice a week, but making sure that that's there so that you're firm in who you are and your understanding of self. But we had another person who said that sometimes it's just external. Sometimes you want to go to the spa, you want to do a massage, and you don't want to think about anything. You just want to just be there and just relax and just kind of go away, to just a space where you're just fine. Everything's okay. You're not thinking. So I think it's just understanding that balance, and being able to kind of work within those external and internal spaces where you feel like you're okay on both measures.
Yeah. Thank you for that, One. And thank you for that, Topaz. Okay. So I know we're run way over time, so I'm going to go through some of these, because I think that as we talk about how to take care of ourselves, and especially in this year, I don't want us to also forget sort of the medical aspects of this as well. So I'm going to hand over to Dr. Kwa and Tabitha as well to really take us through how can we, in this year of COVID, how can we make sure that our self-care takes into account our actual physical health as well, and mental health? How do we bring all those two together? Our spiritual health, everything, how does it play? So I'll hand it over to you, both of you, to kind of talk us through some ideas and thoughts that you have on that as well.
Okay. Thanks for that. I'll try to make it very brief. I think we've actually harped on a lot of this, and I think for most of us, we have to recognize that our mental health is part of our physical health and our spiritual health, and we need to look at our body and with a holistic approach, and recognize that oftentimes when there's something not going the way it normally is in regards to your emotional and mental health, it has an impact on your physical. You may be someone that's been suffering from migraines for months, and you've gone to the doctor, they've done every test, they've taken lots of your blood, they've done brain scans, and everything's negative, and it just boils down to maybe stress or being overwhelmed or something that's happening in the household. So we have to recognize that a lot of times our body can even tell us that something is wrong just simply by giving us these physical manifestations. Sometimes you have an eye twitch that just won't go away, or you notice that you get these stomach aches that no matter what food you change and things of that nature, your stomach always hurts in the morning. So you have to be very conscious of the fact that a lot of times something that's going on emotionally, mentally, can actually be addressing itself physically. During this time, this post-COVID era, we hear the words depression and anxiety so much, but mental health is really a spectrum. It's not just depression and anxiety. However, those are probably the two major issues that most people are dealing with. We have a lot of other things that people are dealing with, whether it's suicidal thoughts, whether it's PTSD. A lot of people, unfortunately, are being triggered, being at home with family members or people who they have a lot of issues with, and being home, seeing those individuals all the time is even triggering some PTSD. I know someone earlier spoke about, I think it was Moya, to the difficulties of gaining access to people who may help. And I was actually just trying to write in the chat a list of providers, whether they're social workers, clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, who are African or of African descent, because I think it's very important to connect with those people because they really understand the cultural context. A lot of the things that we go through. A lot of them are offering free counseling sessions, group sessions, group therapy. A lot of them talk about topics on their IG lives and things of that nature. So I think it's imperative for us to know who we can reach out to and where. So I'm going to put that list in our chat. And like I said, be very mindful of your body and what's going on with your body. If you're just noticing things that are, you get headaches, you get eye twitches, stomach aches, running stomach, things of that nature, recognize that may not be that something physically is happening, but rather it's something emotional and mental that's going on with you. Thanks.
Tabitha.
Oh, you're very succinct and to the point. I'm not that person. So you just keep me in line. Thanks, Doc. Okay, so can I share instead?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah.
That's the only way I'll remember what I meant to say. So I will just go through this super quick, and then if anybody needs the slide, I will send it over. All right, how much time do I have? 5, 10?
Like 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right, ready? Go.
Go.
Breathe. This is the most free access to coping and resourcing with any issue going on, right? It's free. It changes your mind, your body, and soul in an instant. So it's not just, we know we're always breathing, but we're actually not doing the breathing that can deactivate any kind of, see now I got myself all worked up to go fast, and I'm like, so always take the time. We're talking about self-care. Take the time. Tracking is an easy way to separate the two. Sometimes you're stressed in your mind based on work or whatever is going on. And as our Aqua said, it manifests in your body. They're always connected in your hearts, right? All three. If one thing is having an issue, the others are affected. So take the time to always check in with yourself. When you wake up in the middle of the day, how do I feel? 1 to 10. And when you do that, you're able to identify which part of you is actually affected, which gives you power back to change that. So if I'm a 7 right now because I didn't eat breakfast, I'm able to get to that and say, okay, do I want to go to a 10? Yes. How do I get there? I get a meal. You get power to change usually we all just say, I don't feel good. That's vague. You don't have power to change what's happening unless you look at it, right? And so these are some of the benefits. You reconnect to your body, mind, and soul. You're present to what's happening within and outside of you, external and internal factors. Somebody brought it up. Sometimes we don't have words, right? Think about kids. Some of us, we've grown up, our cultures, a lot of my language, I don't even know how to say emotions in my language. I had to take a toll, and it took a lot of us to figure out what is the word for emotions in Kinyarwanda, because we don't use those everyday languages. So when you use this, it helps people identify what's wrong and therefore can change it, and you reclaim your power, as I mentioned. All right, I got 3 minutes. So we are living in unprecedented times, right? All of us, none of us knew this would come and how we deal with it. So our old model of resilience, we always think of a palm tree. The winds come, it bends over, they go away, it comes back to normal. But that doesn't work sometimes, right? You can't come back from something so tragic, from a war, from a big breakup, from whatever. And so some people have looked at it, but sometimes, especially for us strong Black women, we don't want to cry, we don't want to let out. Sometimes this is resilience, actually feeling those things that are affecting you, having a good cry. My daughters are really good at this. Like I said, I'm good at preaching, not so much at practicing. One of my daughters, she literally will ask for cry time, and I'm like, please go ahead. And she goes to her room.
I love that.
Right? And this girl will wail like something is really wrong, and then she'll come out and she's all good. She's like, all right, what are we having for dinner? Like, girl, good for you. And so I've tried to incorporate some of these things in my parenting, because I don't do it, but I know it would have helped if I had learned this, including self-care for me is rest. I'm not good at that, but I try to do it if I do it with my kids. So last week I woke up, I was not feeling it, and I told everybody we're not going to school today. We all shut down our computers and we had a fun day, and that's okay, right? When was the last time algebra saved your life? Never, but rest will save your life. So that's okay, right?
I like that.
Our new motto for
I'm going to call you tomorrow the last time algebra saved your life.
So, teaching others, sometimes they help me stay accountable to my own well-being, right? So our new motto is like, when things are happening, like COVID, right? So many things are dying, including people, and things are changing, but also new things are coming up. So holding space for all, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, that we can nourish those that are growing within us. Some of us have positive things. Auntie was just sharing, she lost 20 pounds during COVID. And so that's something to celebrate. She got 6 months with her daughters, with her family. She never had that before. So you can celebrate and grieve and be resilient all in one space. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So we get lost in the binary way of looking at life. It's the good or bad. This is the part that I probably won't go in because it's going to be a very long one, but the basics of it is, back to the brain, and probably Kwa can explain this much more than I can, but the basics, and please feel free to, hold on. Oh, my 5 minutes are up. All right, I'll skip this, where your amygdala sets off an alarm and your body feels like it is actually in the moment that your trauma happened. And that brings the same exact reactions that you experienced when that trauma happened. And so back to the breathing, your body is consistently doing this, the fight or flight. So when you breathe, you're sending that message that you're okay, and it will regulate you in the moment. Deep breaths from your diaphragm will make a big difference when things are happening. So I will send this to anybody who needs it, but I want to just capture. Yes, so capture resourcing, right? How you build resilience and the effects, and some of the things you can do. Types of coping skills, right? Mindfulness, distractions. All of you have said one or the other that you have done in the past few months. Giving from the overflow, not from this. Yeah. Because when you give from your own cup, eventually you run out. Or is give from the overflow, and that's sometimes the opposite of what we've been taught as African women. And lastly, always remembering this art piece. It's based on the Japanese art. I say this over and over. It was in the, I'll skip it because it was in the TEDx as well. Just always remembering to fill the cracks with gold, right? And that could be the self-care for yourself and then those around you, that you can give each other the gold that gives all of us healing.
Yes. Thank you. We'll be getting the slides to share with everybody. I love that, filling it with gold. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of take a step back and maybe get through to the end, as we also want to do something a little fun at the end as well. But Mommy has this beautiful way of talking about being a whole woman
Oh.
And I wanted us to tell.
Can you share the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sharing it to myself.
That's going to be very quick. Very quick. How many of you will say you are super? Okay, rephrase. Rewind, mommy. How many of you have ever seen yourself or been called a superwoman? Don't lie. Do not lie. Raise your hand.
I do.
Yeah, multitasking.
Okay.
Master multitasking.
All right.
Yeah.
And how did it feel when people called you superwoman? How did it feel? How did it feel when you were called a superwoman? Was it good? Did you feel like, oh my God, I'm it. I'm the bomb. You know? How did it feel? Did you feel proud about it? How did it feel?
Feels great.
Great. Okay.
Like you're a superhero.
Feel like they lying. Like, what are you guys talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just putting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it all together. So for me, when I started thinking about this idea of being a whole woman that I talked about, once that became very clear, when I thought about being a superwoman, I was like, pressure, man, pressure. My God, this is too much pressure. First of all, Superman or Superwoman, whoever it is, Lois and Clark, wherever they are, that is not real. It is not real. And so you are deceiving yourself. And when somebody tells you that, I think they are calling, I know what it is that people are calling out, oh yeah, you can multitask, but it's like pressure to always show up, pressure to always be, pressure to always be like going like that. Mommy shows up and doesn't like, yeah. And it's like, I got a reputation to maintain, right? And so you have to maintain that reputation. But when I came to this idea of a whole woman, I was like, you know what? I want to be able to bring my fears and my tears, my trials and my triumphs, my successes and my failures. I want to be able to live in a juxtaposed world where I bring all of who I am to every experience. And boy, is that freeing. And so I believe that as whole women, we can break free from the shackles of silos and compartments. And these are all coded words. When somebody calls you a superwoman, it's a coded word. It's a trap. Don't fall for it. They're setting a trap for you. Take a step back and ask, what is it that they are telling me, right? They may be good things, but what are the other things that I can't hear that is embedded in this idea of being a superwoman? So for me, instead of being a superwoman, I'm like, cross out. I'm a whole woman. And I think that this idea of, superwoman is also related to how as Black women we are seen. So I really watched Kamala Harris when she was debating Mike Pence. And I actually wrote, the art of Kamala Harris is something a lot of us have to learn, right? But the idea of how she straddled between being assertive and aggressive and not giving people the opportunity to speak certain things. And so I remember that somebody actually told me that I was too boisterous and all of that. And I started thinking, I was like, what is it that they are trying to say? How do I shift the narrative? And so I came up with this idea of if we don't tell our stories, who will? I am passionate, not aggressive. I am energetic. I'm not boisterous. Don't get it wrong. I am energetic. I'm not boisterous. I am outspoken. I'm not insolent. I am strong, not forceful. I am assertive, not angry. I am bold and visionary, not antagonistic. I'm Black and proud, Black and bold and beautiful. So I just want to challenge you, and throw that challenge. Anytime somebody calls you a word, think about what it is that you are and flip the script. Because we have to now start telling the story. Otherwise, if we don't tell the story, they will continue to label us as angry Black women. You are too loud, you are too this. I mean, no matter what Michelle Obama did, they still labeled her, no matter what. But she just came out and said, I'm going to change this. And of course, the quote about what Auntie BC taught me. So I want to do something very quickly. Around you, you can unmute yourself, and around you, look around you, take 30 seconds and look around you. And around you, it could be on your body, it could be around you. I want you to pick up something, identify something, pick it up if you can hold it up. That reminds you, that is a symbol of self-care for you, right now. I'm just trying to see how we are living and practicing self-care. So around you, look around you and say, okay, what do I have around me that is a symbol of self-care? And put it up.
Some tea and my massager.
And even act it out. Okay, you have, okay, book. Okay, mayatu, lemongrass candle. Hey, okay, all right. So we are going to take a picture. I don't do this. I don't do technology. Somebody has to take the picture. So put up what it is that you have as your self-care. Just as a reminder, and every now and then, we're going to send this picture out every now and then. I want you to remember, right? So you saw that earlier on, I got up and I was walking. My watch said, I've been sitting for too long. So I just I looked at my watch and I was like, okay, mom, it's time to walk around and shake what the Lord gave you, like shake your booty a little bit, you know? So I just started going like that. So that's what I did, right? So I'm wearing mine right now. So lift it up, and who's going to take the picture?
I'll take it. Everybody
can
ready?
Can we take down the slides so that we all in a...
That's true. I can see you.
Oh, yeah, so that we can, yes.
I can see you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have two screens going here, so I can see you.
Okay,
Everybody ready?
You guys, ladies, you have to don't look like fine girls, because fine girls never made any difference. Strike a pose, okay?
Strike a pose. 1, 2, 3.
Excellent. All right.
Did the picture have everyone, or do you have to take a couple?
I have everyone now.
Okay.
You want to take one more?
No, I have everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to take a silly one with it?
Sure. Let's take a silly one.
Okay, take a silly one. Come on.
I don't do silly.
Auntie Abby.
Okay, I'm counting to 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank you, and I'm done.
Thank you. All right. So for interest of time, should we go through we're going to give you a practice on journaling, but we can.
Yes, we can just run through the tips, and then people can take a picture of the questions and do it on their own.
Yes.
So
we can share these slides as well. But again, we wanted to share just another technique for self-care, which is journaling. And I think some of us already know, and a lot of you already know the benefits of journaling. But again, I think that when I think of journaling, sometimes I'm like, I have to give myself 30 minutes to be able to write. But what I'm learning, as well as some of you know, is just 5 minutes a day is fine to start, right? So
are you going to share the screen?
I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself.
It's funny. I didn't know you were going to do that, but that's why I held up a pen.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll run through this quickly. Yes. So one of the things that I have given myself a gift to do is I'm doing a 30-day cleanse with Arborn. I don't know if any of you know Arborn. So I'm doing a 30-day cleanse. I'm going into my 4th week, and I'm so proud of myself. I can feel the difference, right? So one of the things they said was about journalists. I was reading my chat and I saw this, and I was like, this is something to just bring up. And why journaling for self-care, right? The benefits, like it turns down the noise, enables you to process your emotion, gives you a place, to put your feelings, like the stress goes away, all of those things. And just like tips to get started, I think a lot of us don't see journaling as important, especially as Africans. Like as Africans, sometimes this idea of journaling is like, it might seem foreign, right? Like, not some people are, but in general, when you tell somebody I journal, they'll look at you like, you do what? So just simple ways to start, just 5 minutes, right? To start, and then think about something you're grateful for, things that you are grateful for. And the more you think about gratitude, the more you see things that you are not seeing, right? Don't worry about the grammar and spelling. You're not going to get a Nobel Peace Prize for it. It's okay, right? Make it part of your bedtime routine. So just before you go to bed, have your book by your side, your lamp, whatever, and write about your day. Was it great? What was challenging about it? Thoughtfulness, observations, hopes, dreams, conflicts, etc., etc. So just, that's it. Now you can just show the other one, and I will send that.
We'll send you the slides out.
But yes.
wanted to do an exercise, but I know in the sake of time, we'll keep moving. Okay, so we'll send you out these questions, and maybe that's something you can do this weekend. Spend some time and 5 minutes just thinking about these questions. Okay. All right. So I know we also wanted to do a poem. I think we may want to get to the end, Mommy, and to the team. Right?
Sorry.
I said I know we wanted to also go through Still I Rise. We'll make sure you have the copy of that. Again, ask you to review that this weekend as you start to journal as well as read the poem Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. And then
no, I mean, I think we could just do the poem. We don't have to do the one-word checkout. That's fine.
Okay.
We can just do the poem and just have people take one piece of it and just read it.
So what
out
we
loud.
wanted to do
We can
was
all
just
unmute.
yeah. Is everybody
All
on? Make sure
unmute.
everybody's unmuted. But yeah, the thinking
unmute.
today was just to spend some time going through Maya Angelou's poem. Let me know if you can see it okay, because I know that I am. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
So we can just, in an orderly way, just take one part of it, read, whoever is interested, just read it with passion, just fill our souls. And we can even record this if it's, if it's possible, just so we can have it.
Yes, we're recording, yes.
Yes. All right, we have One. Who else?
Well, let's just start. We can just
One, okay, One and
just go.
Let's go.
And I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Okay. You may write
me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies.
Oh, who's starting?
Oh, you are. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you start. It's fine.
No, I thought we were doing it together as a group.
Okay, we can do some of it together.
I don't know.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go. We can even do the first two stanzas together. Let's go. Okay. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou.
Okay.
All right. You may
write me down in history
with your
bitter
lies.
You
may trod me in the very dirt. Still like dust, I rise.
Does my
sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like a wells in my living room.
Just like
moons and like suns with the uncertainty.
You know what? I have an idea.
Take everybody.
I have an idea. We have Auntie Abby in our midst.
Who's the poet?
Auntie Abby, we are just going to tell you to read this over all of us as a blessing. All right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, because that was premium tears. That was premium tears. That was not happening. Yeah.
I was sharing the highs and the lows.
Sorry.
Okay, Auntie Abby, please read this over for us as a blessing.
Action, Auntie Abby.
Nah, you should have chosen my poem, Liberation,
Yes.
We are sorry. We apologize.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing up, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard because I love like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard? You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Gave us time for pause. Thank you. So let's go through. We don't need to do the one word checkout. We can just do the quick celebration. And
you want to do the announcement and then we...
Yes, so we can do the announcement and then we can go back. So as you know, we have our 10 for 1,000 campaign going. Any support you can give AWDF USA would be greatly appreciated. Again, you can echo, magnify, or amplify. As you know, we've been running our, Emma Moyatu definitely is the lead for this, our Amplify Her campaign, the Diaspora Her podcast. So we've had Auntie Abby, please listen, Mame, and also Abinuwa, so please listen. I think it's been wonderful to hear voices from ourselves as well. Again, share your information with us. I will send the WhatsApp link to everybody that's here, and please continue to share with others to join this community. That it's every time we meet, as I said, something may have happened, and I think this has been a really sort of cathartic experience for at least me on the weekends. So thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
So let me see if I can get this to work. Let's see. Okay, so we wanted to end with some fun, and I hope it works because I don't know. So I'm just gonna start, and I would ask that if you're in any location, just move a chair back, get up, everybody stand up, and we're gonna start. And in honor of, what was that? I know you can't see it yet, but in honor of sort of the mental health month and our sort of health and wellness, I found this video, and I want to know, who knows how to do this dance because I'm still learning.
I'm practicing,
okay?
But it's not.
Can you see? Everybody, I'm still learning.
People are sitting down. We can see you people. Stand up. I mean, what is that? Stand up, oh. Be counted. How you go, Bethel? Hey, check what the Lord gave ya. The Rama gave ya. You see Cynthia's face. This one you come and dance.
Oh, Cynthia shows her face when it comes.
I know, right?
Hey, what is music? You can see me. Pump it up.
It's moving.
Where is Auntie Abby? What happened to Auntie Abby? Oh, there she is. Okay. Oh, Lord.
I'm still learning.
I stood up and danced. That's where I am.
That was good.
Thank you for indulging the crazy idea. That was fun. So again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been here. I know we've been way over time, but I think it was a really discussion and got me thinking about how to better bring in self-care into my life again, because it's never consistent, right? So I want to say a big thank you to all of you for sharing the strategies. For Olivia, we'll be getting her back to do some of her lift fit exercises. I know she had to drop off, but thank you so much for staying with us today. So thank you.
I love that's the last slide with the quotes. I love those quotes.
Let me go back into
about if you don't make time for your self-care, something about you make time for your illness.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a reminder, if you do not make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. So
yeah,
yes, it's very true.
Very true.
Yeah, and especially in times like this, I know health is on everybody's mind. So I really hope that we've learned something, taken a step back today, and really are looking at how we can again continue to be well. So thank you.
Arrivederci.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Okay. We'll see you soon, and our next one would be about how to make the money.
That is important. That'll come for properly.
Thank you, everyone.
Money for your self-care, One.
That's my money. That's my hey,
Thank you so much, everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.